Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola, buenas tardes, bienvenida.
Aquí está mi esposo también.
Bueno,
Hola, hola.
Hello, good evening.
Buenas noches.
Hello, good evening. So wonderful to see each of you and see your boxes this evening. Yeah, we're just gonna give ourselves a couple of minutes as folks slowly get added on here. Well, it's been a couple of minutes and yeah, would love for us to get started this evening. Hello, everyone, and good evening. Happy Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. It's the only one there'll be, and so grateful that each of you are spending it with us here. And it is our 60th South Fresno call for this work, and so just so grateful. My name is Bikela Ikoba, and I'm here with Harder and Company this evening. I'm joined by my two fabulous colleagues, Liz Lev and Amy Ramos, PhD, and from Harder Company Facilitation as well. And so, as usual, our team will be supporting the facilitation flow of the evening, as well as working behind the scenes to take attendance, offer technical assistance, and general support to ensure that everyone is able to engage fully in tonight's meeting. So with that, if at any point you're having trouble with Zoom, the translation, or have any other questions, feel free to message any one of us. We'd be happy to help. But before we fully open up our meeting, we would love to invite our amazing Linguistica team to offer some and provide some interpretation guidance for us. We invite you to take the floor.
thank you. Buenas tardes. El día de hoy tenemos el servicio de interpretación disponible para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom van a ver un icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación. Seleccionan el icono y luego seleccionan español y silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar solo la interpretación del inglés al español. Y si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde su dispositivo móvil, tienen que tocar la pantalla, seleccionan los 3 puntos, interpretación de idiomas, y también seleccionamos español y silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar la interpretación. Ahora voy a dar las mismas indicaciones, pero en inglés. Good evening. Today we have interpretation available for those who need it. If you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a world-like icon that says interpretation. You can select it and then select English. And if you're joining from a tablet or your phone, you can tap your screen, select the 3 dots, select language interpretation, and then select English, and finish are done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You think you get used to some things then, every time. But yeah, thank you so much. Yes, so in light of that, now that we're situated with that, we would love to invite everyone before you get started to please make sure that your screen name reflects this naming convention. So if you're a CSC member or resident, you have CSC or ARC resident with your name here in Zoom. This is an important reminder for all of us as it helps us track attendance, especially for those participating in the stipend program. And then next, for all other participants, we invite you to use this naming convention listed on the slide with your first and last name, followed by your organization or agency. So AD or CARB or public or other organization name. And so just a few reminders for the virtual setting. Please, we invite you to ensure that your microphone is on mute unless you are speaking or planning to speak. If you're calling in by phone, you will need to press *6. That's *6 on your phone to mute and unmute. And as a reminder, if you have a question or comment, we invite you to raise your hand on Zoom, clicking the little raise hand feature using the bottom ribbon. And if you're calling in by phone and you have a question or comment, you would need to press *9. That's *9. As a reminder to residents participating in the stipend program, you would need to stay at least 75% of the meeting to be eligible for a stipend, or about 90-ish minutes. And so if you're here right at 5:30, just a reminder that you would need to stay until around at least 7 p.m. to be eligible for that. And so with that, I'm going to quickly walk through some of our group agreements to ensure that we have a time tonight that feels productive and good and meaningful for us. So one, we want to help each other achieve meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and trying to maintain a productive dialogue. We're a pretty large group, and so we want to make sure that everyone has that chance to participate. So if you're someone who tends to talk a lot during meetings, like maybe me sometimes, we encourage you to make space for others. And if you tend to stay more quiet during meetings like this, we invite you and welcome you to step up and be a little bit courageous and share your ideas and questions with the group. Next, we would love to encourage everyone to be respectful and civil, and remembering that it's okay to disagree and that this can be done in a respectful manner where we honor one another. Next, we do have a packed agenda today, as always, and so we invite folks to try to stay on point and on time by keeping comments brief and to the point. There will also be some space for others to speak as well. This will allow for others to speak as well, I'm sorry. And then remember that when there is disagreement, remember to attack the problem or the issue at hand and not other people. And as a reminder, we really want to seek to honor one another's humanity and dignity. And so we're humans before any other roles or positions that we hold. And lastly, let's do our best to seek common ground and find opportunities to identify those solutions. At this point in time, even just in remembering that we're wanting to honor one another's humanity and dignity, I'd also love to take a moment and pause in this presentation before we talk about the agenda for the evening, just in light of that, to acknowledge that we are living in a context where we have lives and experience the news and the world outside of these 90 or so minutes on our Zoom call. And we also want to acknowledge that there are so many spaces and places of conflict throughout the world, some that make it on our timelines and some that do not. And I just we want to make space tonight to even just take a moment of silence in light of that. And so I'll give us maybe a few moments to just take a silence together and remembering and honoring one another's humanity and honoring, remembering that we're human first. And so would love to just take a moment and feel free to do whatever you need to do in that space, and I'll bring us back in a few seconds. And so with that, yes, of course, I see the chat. So with that, it always feels abrupt transitioning from moments of silence to whatever it is on our thing. But we want to, we want to acknowledge that these moments aren't things to check off a checklist, but rather are things that we carry with us throughout the evening and throughout our lives after we continue on with all of the worlds that we live in at 7:31 p.m. And so with that, would love to share what we have on our agenda for the evening, but invite you to continue to navigate that with the same level of respect and honoring of yourself and of others and of humanity. So with that, we started off with welcome. This is welcome. And after this, we'll transition to a time of following up with action items, with the action item tracker, before we transition to discussing a little bit more the end of the year implementation review and planning for 2024, before we transition to chatting more together in this space about an update regarding the annual progress report, ongoing standing updates, and then talking about next steps and what agenda setting looks like, moving up before ending with the final public comment. So with that, would love to transition our time to the next element or piece of our agenda, which is the action item tracker follow-up. And as we do so, would love to invite Ryan, before we officially make that transition, from the Valley Air Districts team, to share just some opening remarks with the CSC. Ryan, did you have any open remarks for this evening?
I think you did a great job, Michaela. Definitely happy to be here with all of you tonight and talk about a lot of the progress that's been made, and looking forward to heading into next year, having another successful year and working with all of you. So yeah, that's all I have to share, and yeah, I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight.
Thanks, Ryan. Okay, so with that, we will now transition to our action item tracker follow-up item. So part of our work together is to increase transparency and accountability, which is why we continue to dedicate this time each week to this space. And so our last meeting, we identified a number of action items that we would now like to take some time together to review and get some updates on progress towards those requests. Please feel free to use the chat during this time or use the raise hand feature to ask any clarifying questions you have. And as a reminder, throughout the rest of our evening, our amazing interpretation team is interpreting these things live. So if you tend to be someone who really, loves to crank out the words, just remember our friends on the Linguistica team. With that, Nancy would invite you to take the floor whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Michaela. I really enjoyed that little moment of reflection. Can't believe this year's almost over. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everybody see that? All right, perfect. All All right, so we do have a packed agenda today, so let's get to it. And we are going to go into the action items from a last CSC meeting in October. So let's start off with the in progress. And I'll go ahead and start off with action item 59.3. And so with this one, the CSC is invited to suggest potential locations within the AB 617 Fresno boundary. So we are still taking suggestions of locations where we can do the passenger vehicle repair and replacement measures. And then you are more than welcome to email us, call us, and I'll go ahead and drop down all that information in a little bit. And so we can proceed to action item 59.1. And so the CSC is invited to provide feedback on the annual report. Originally, we were looking for feedback by November 3rd, but we have extended that deadline to November 16th. And again, we can take feedback, by, you can call the district and ask to speak to one of us that work with the AB 617 communities. You can go ahead and call me, email me, and then we can also set up meetings, Zoom calls, so we can go over anything you're interested in the annual report. And so you can go back to return and comment noted. So we did have 2 comments noted from the last CSC meeting in October. 59.4, this is regarding the Blueprint 2.0. So there was CARB was wanting feedback from the members, from the CSC members. And so that was supposed to be done by October 16th. And there was also a board meeting that was held on October 26th. And then you can also watch it here. It's available to view. And then so we can proceed forward. And so action number 59.2. At our previous meeting, there was a suggestion to continue a discussion regarding organizational practices and strategies to meet environmental justice goals. And then so if you are interested in this, if you have any questions on the Air District's organizational practices and strategies to meet environmental justice goals, let us know. We can always set something up. We are always available. We are willing to communicate and just openly discuss any topics, any suggestions, whatever you are interested in. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And if you have any questions, this is the time. Please use the chat or just raise your hand and just let us know. So at this moment, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So I will go ahead and send this back to you, Michaela.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, thanks so much. So yeah, I don't see anything in the chat or any raised hands in this participation list either. So with that, would love to transition the conversation to my colleague, Amy.
Thank you, Michaela. Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Ramos, and it's great to see your names in these black boxes here. I appreciate you all showing up today and acknowledging that we have a full house today. Lots of folks are here, and for good reason, right? It's been 5 years of implementation of AB 617, and today we have the opportunity to hear about the end of the year implementation of the SERP. As you know very well, the Air District, and in collaboration with you all and local partners, has been working to implement what was voted on for the SERP. So at this time, we're going to welcome the Air District to provide us with an update by highlighting some of the key accomplishments over this last year. And we encourage you all to be ready to share your questions, share your comments, and even be considering in the back of your mind as the Air District is presenting, maybe some recommendations that you have about upcoming discussions that the CSC should have in this next year. That is after the formal presentation and the interaction, the discussion that we'll have. We're hoping to be able to solicit some feedback about what you all are thinking needs to be prioritized in 2024 as we set the agendas for the next coming year. We do want to acknowledge that we don't tend to have a huge attendance at the agenda setting meetings. So we'd like to maximize your input during tonight's meeting and really get your feedback about what is top of mind for you and what might be a pressing topic that you would like to prioritize in this next year. So again, just to clarify, as the Air District is presenting this end of the year review of the CERC implementation, we'd love for you to share with us any comments, suggestions, or questions that you have. And our team will be taking down some of those comments that you have so that we can aim to prioritize the discussions for the next year. So with that said, I'm going to welcome the Air District to get us started, and we will be monitoring the chat, monitoring the live stream that we have. And if you have questions, please do raise your hand, and we will be calling on you in the order that you raise your hand. Right?
Give me 1 second. I have to figure out how to work my controls again. I apologize.
You're not a rookie anymore. Come on.
I feel like I'm a rookie every day. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everybody see the screen? I'm seeing head nods and thumbs. That's great. All right. So yeah, we want to take this time to kind of share where we're at with a lot of the incentive-based measures. This is something that we've discussed at providing regular updates to the CSC members on this topic. There was as discussed in previous meetings, just it's really important to keep you updated on where we are with spending the funds that all of you worked on allocating to the different incentive-based measures. And I think we're making really good headway on a lot of them. And there are other ones that are just kind of starting up. And so we haven't seen as much funding, but I think given some of the costs with some of this, I think that funding can be kind of allocated to different things pretty quickly. So with that, I'll go ahead and start with the first slide. So just as a general reminder to everybody, so when we worked with the CSC to develop a budget for the incentive-based measures, the committee worked to allocate $45 million, over $45 million in funding for the different measures, all with the focus on reducing pollution, not only the criteria pollutions of PM 2.5 and NOx, which are shown on the slide, but also toxic air contaminants that also result from things like heavy-duty diesel trucks and things of that nature. So it was very important to find ways to reduce those emissions. So the CERP as a whole had 48 total measures. 20 of them were incentive-based, 9 focused on enforcement and permitting, 13 were focused on outreach in the community, and 6 were land use and partnerships. So kind of just as an overview, we kind of broke it down into different categories that we're going to be discussing. And so this is just a kind of breakdown of the different residential measures. So we had residential lawn and garden, we had indoor air filtration, we have the vehicle equipment repair program, which we often call tune-in and tune-up. We have passenger vehicle replacement, and then we have replacing wood-burning devices. And so the darker gray shows how much has been committed to in funds through contracts or equipment already being delivered. And so you see with residential lawn and garden, we basically used up the majority of that money. With indoor air filtration, it's been open roughly about 8-9 months now. And we saw initial real surge, and we've seen kind of a slowdown, but we still have quite a bit of funding left remaining. The dollar amount that you see there is how much is remaining of it. So, for example, for indoor air filtration, we had $1 million. So far, we have $797,000 remaining. So we spent a little over $200,000 on indoor air filtration devices. Go to the next slide and then go into a little more detail on kind of the progress that we've seen. So for the residential lawn and garden, overall funding, we had $200,000. We've spent $171,000 in giving out 421 total units. The majority of those were done in in-person events. We held 2 in-person events, and we were very successful at getting those out. And some people went out and purchased their own and went through a process of turning in their old lawnmower, which was also another acceptable option. And Naomi, I see you have your hand up.
I'm sorry if I jump here, but can you go to the other slide, Brian? So, am I interpreting this right? The tune-in, tune-up, and the passenger vehicle replacement. So that means we have not spent anything?
There's a good reason for that, Naomi, and I'm going to get to it. But the
okay. I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, we're going to have all this money left.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I will get to it on this next slide right here. Let me just get through residential air filtration, and then I'll go into those 2 programs. So residential air filtration, we've spent $217,000, which is in the form of 1,107 air filtration devices have gotten in people's homes. That's exciting. That's good news. Thankfully, we did not have a bad fire season, but we are going into wood burning season. And during this time, we do see higher levels of PM 2.5, and so when people, hopefully people have signed up for the various methods for receiving alerts, but we're very hopeful that people have these units, and if there are periods of poor air quality, that they have these devices, that they can use them and as further protection for them and their families inside their homes. But we're going to need to continue. That's a lot of money that we still have to work to get out, and we're going to talk a little bit. As far as the next step, we're going to be looking to continue to perform outreach. There's some opportunities to look at doing some of this through in-person events that we're going to be talking with you more about, and we've actually started doing. We actually did an event in person over the past weekend, getting some of those out. Which Zong is going to talk a little bit more at the end of this presentation. Sorry, on the residential lawn and garden, there's also the next step is discussion about potentially adding funds to the measure, since we basically have used up the majority of it, and we're going to bring it back to see if the committee thinks it would be a good use of the funds to possibly shift some funding over, to provide more funding to replace more residential lawn and garden equipment. So, tune in, tune up, and passenger vehicle. Oh, I see Dr. Curry has her hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious if we utilize the targets that we have and we spend all of the money, are we attempting to quantify the reduction in emissions or an improvement in health outcomes? How are we tying this to any metrics?
So yes, we track the emission reductions. We have calculations that have been developed for the replacement for each one of these pieces of equipment, based on like usage, not only here, but I think there's statewide and national kind of metrics for emission reductions that are associated with replacing these types of pieces of equipment. In regards to overall health, there's a lot of studies that are being done or just starting up now, and the California Air Resources Board has been allocating funds to look at the health impact benefits of the program. So yeah, I think we're going to be able to talk more about some of that research that's going to be going on around the AB 617 program as a whole.
Okay, so one suggestion I have would be that if we plotted this data on a graph where we showed the number of units that have actually been placed in people's hands and the amount of reduction, that so that we could see the two of them together, and
Okay.
use that also as a way of letting people know that their actions actually matter and that there's actual real reduction that we're tracking.
Yeah, and that's in, I believe that's in the SERP tracker. I think we do calculate the emission reductions. I will double check that for you though, Dr. Curry. I think that's where we were looking to have that as like an ongoing basis of emissions reductions. I know it doesn't speak to the larger and very important health impacts. But just as far as emission reductions, we are trying to present that information just on a monthly basis, updating that information.
So I think that's great. I just think that if we were able to see from a year-end perspective what we think we've accomplished, I think that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Ryan and Dr. Curry, we'll make that an action item. So future updates like this will include some sort of graphic representation of these reductions in relationship to the updates that we're presenting here.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you. So tune in and tune up. I see Janet.
Yeah, go ahead, Janet.
So I know you were talking about the emission reductions that are calculated, but can that also be lined up with the measurements that are be taking in the communities? So live data.
Yes, excellent.
Like you're talking about trends, Janet, overall using the air quality data as like on a kind of year end where what we've seen over the year over year.
Yeah, the air monitoring and how many units have been sold and what the data says the reduction should be compared with the live data for the communities we're looking at.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. This is good feedback. Appreciate it. So tune in, tune up. We just got approval maybe a month or so ago from California Air Resources Board. So this was one of the community identified projects that had to get approval from CARB. And we were happy that we were able to work with them and to get these programs approved so that we can move forward. I think some of the other things that we were looking at was the price of vehicles. Maybe a year or two ago, A, there was just a lack of them, and then B, the cost of them was I think would have been a limiting factor for them. And so what we did with you is we worked with you on establishing maybe increasing the new car replacement funding. And timing wise, it may work out because the federal government is currently looking at some changes to the federal income tax credit, and so it may work out. We're still trying to make sure we understand what it means, but it may open it up that credit to more people. So right now is based on how much federal income tax you pay is how much you can kind of get back. But I've read different things that may indicate that anybody would be able to get the full $7,500 credit, which would be amazing when you add that to the $20,000 that would be available through the CSC's recommended amount. But so that's why we brought this to the CSC. We had the discussion. We brought Valley Can, who's the partner that has been running this program, to talk about locations where they can engage with residents about the replacement program. In addition to talking about tune in and tune up. And so the feedback that we got from the steering committee, Naimeen, was that we would have in-person event that's focused only on people from the 8617 community. and then also have the ability to participate in the direct event where people call the number, they get a member of Valley Can on the phone. They explain the program to them, they walk them through it, they tell them the location of the nearest participating shop where they would take their vehicle. They take it there and they can get their vehicle tested, and if needed, could also get it repaired. And so it's kind of a one-stop shop for them, which is also good. We're also looking at the in-person events have been very successful. It's been a great opportunity for us to engage more with residents. We, pass out information. In this case, we would, focus on handing out information about the AB 617 program and the things that are available to them as a result of living in the community. So that was kind of the feedback that we got from the steering committee members, and that's what we were, looking to do. And we're looking to start that up after the first of the year. So that's exciting news. So if anybody, once again, has any other recommendations, we got a lot of suggestions. I think a lot of them came from Kim on locations where Valley can go out, but if people have more, we definitely want to share that with Valley Can. You know what I mean?
I remember when several years back I was in a table with Lilia and Isabel and others, and one of the concerns they have about the program in general is that they know of stories of people that even before 8617, and they got the voucher, right, to replace an old vehicle, I believe, 9,000 or whatever the amount was. And still, they felt that because it had to be like a newer car and all that, the person couldn't really take advantage of it, because then the rest that person had to finance. So is it possible to consider offering like a higher incentive or whatever you call it to a resident that applies within the 8617, so it's not exactly the same amount that anybody else in the
No, that's what we did. I mean, at the recommendation.
So do you think, what's that? Sorry, I missed that. What's that percentage? Like, if you are offering 9,000, what is the difference for an 8617 resident?
So the non-AB 617, you can get up to, I believe, 12,000. And so an AB 617 in the South Central can get up to 20.
Okay, I missed that part. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's a lot more. And then, like I said,
but the thing is that now the requirement is that it cannot be a conventional vehicle. It has to be like a electric or hybrid, right?
It does. Yeah.
So they are more expensive.
Yes. And that's why, hopefully the federal income tax credit, the way that they're designing it, would be open to everybody, in which case that takes it up to 27,500. So I mean that's basically what a new Chevy Bolt right now, you can get those basically for. You may have to pay tax and license, maybe the difference, but that's a drastic difference from paying $27,000 yourself or
Thanks for that clarification, Ryan. And I'm seeing a hand from Lisa at this time.
Okay, Lisa.
Well, a couple of things. What I'm not hearing in all this is, what is your marketing? Like for the tune-ups, I would be sending out postcards to everybody in different zip codes as you're going through town doing the tune-ups of, you live in the AB 617. Did you know if you show up, we can help you with this? And as far as the replacement vehicles, let me tell you a story. My buddy just bought a brand new electric vehicle. And he took me to a medical appointment, nice ride, real quiet, beautiful car. And I asked him how much he was paying. Now he's, in comparison to a lot of people, he is pretty well off. He's paying $600 a month for his car payment. but he was telling me how he's going to get all this money back. And, all he had to do is the paperwork. And I said, well, then what's your monthly payment going to be? And I'm thinking, I'm going to hear something like $250, maybe $300. He goes, no, it's going to drop down to $4. Now, if I was to buy a car and did all the paperwork, I still couldn't afford a $400 car payment. Then on top of it, he actually redid the wiring in his garage for his vehicle because he has a solar unit and everything because, he's affluent and he's one of those guys. So, you're looking at people that are going to have to redo some stuff at their home, possibly. And now with all these cars, with the batteries burning, because you've had like two, what was it? You just had this last week where 2 electric cars started a fire in a garage. So you have some issues with that going on. And so, if you're asking people to do this, $400 is a lot of money for people, especially when rent's going up in Fresno.
Yeah, and I definitely understand that. And with the $7,500, for people that qualify for the $7,500, federal tax credit right now, in addition to, there's some state programs that are offered as well, the state is kind of geared or shifting down on their program. But that's, a lot different than, potentially getting $27,500 for a car. At that price, in order for you to have a $400 car payment, you're looking at probably like a $50,000 or $60,000 car. And so, this program is really geared towards,
he bought a Ford. So, I'm like, Ford is a cheap ass car as far as I'm concerned. I'm a Dodge girl. So,
Hey, we're not lobbying, Lisa. So
no, I'm just
identifying yourself as one brand versus the other, but just
I
appreciate you sharing.
When you're looking
at the $12,000 level that the current program outside of AB 617 has, we see a tremendous demand and across the whole valley for this. And this program itself is focused on low income individuals. And so we do see high levels of participation all across the valley for this program. It's I'm not sure if it's oversubscribed, but it's almost to that point. So we see a lot of interest. So we're thinking with the higher dollar amount and the changing of the model year. That was one of the things that Naomi and you brought up before too, is that some of the cars weren't old enough to participate. And so about a year or so back, we changed the model year. We moved it up 7 years. Now it's 2006 and older vehicles that qualify. So, with those changes, we've seen a lot more demand in the program. We think with the $20,000, we're going to have a lot of participation in the community, and hopefully hit that sweet spot where you get the people that wouldn't have otherwise been able to participate in this program. With the increased incentive, now we'll be able to, and then hopefully the federal income tax credit is applied to the cost of the car, which brings it down, so that way it's even less.
Ryan,
yeah.
One of the things, if you wanted to convince me, when I always buy a car, when I go in, I always ask, the bottom line is, the price is the price, the rebates and all this is what's my monthly going to be?
Yeah.
And
well,
I think the most important thing is, you need to give people what the range of a monthly would be.
Yeah. And that is an excellent point, and that's why we worked with ValleyCan. That's one of the specific services that they do, work with people on the replacement program. So they connect them with dealers that are participating dealers, and then the dealers have been trained to do exactly that, walk them through what everything looks like, so that they can make those decisions and fully understand.
Yeah, Ryan, this is, sorry to interrupt, Ryan, this is Amy. I'm thinking that this is definitely an item to bring back for more discussion with maybe ValleyCan early in the year as that new federal incentive measure will kick in the new year, hearing a lot of feedback and a lot of recommendations. So here we have a lot more measures to get updates on. And so our team is noting that there's a lot of interest in this particular item. So we'll be sure to propose this as a priority for discussion in the beginning of the year. So with that said, Ryan, I'm wondering if we can transition to the next item.
Sure, does that sound? Yep. It's good. It's great stuff. I'm yeah, loving the conversation around these topics. So another one is community and school measures. You know, we're seeing a lot of interest in these different ones, and so this is composed of commercial lawn and garden, EV mechanic training, heavy duty truck rerouting, the vegetative barriers, urban greening. Super excited about that, and I know Naomi and her team are working very hard on that. School air filtration. This was one that the steering committee definitely wanted us to focus on, and you know, we've been working a lot with the schools, and so on the next slide we'll go into the exciting news that we have for the committee in that regard. And then the bottom one hopefully is most exciting for everybody. You see a fully green line. That means what we set out as a target, we were able to actually go over in regards to the number of electric school buses that have been purchased. I know many of you participate in the working group with the City of Fresno in regards to the truck reroute study. You know, I'm happy that the progress is ongoing. There have been some suggestions from CSC members that it's time to ask the city to come back and provide a larger update, especially in regards to the study and how that study is going to be used to help inform the truck reroute study. And so what we're going to look to do is to invite the City of Fresno to come with and provide that update in the beginning of next year. Urban greening and vegetative barriers. Very excited that Tree Fresno and CCEJN are working together, and recently opened up an adopt a tree program for residents. And thanks to Naomi and her team for coming and presenting on that topic. And look forward to being able to get out there and participate in some of those planting opportunities. Tree Fresno is working with the City of Fresno and partners on designs and plans for vegetative barriers. And I think they've identified a location that definitely would benefit greatly from the vegetative barrier. And we're looking to sharing the updates of that progress with the steering committees. And I believe there will be some opportunities for CSC members and other interested parties to maybe participate in those events as well. Am I correct, Naomi? Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm happy to give a report at a later time. But the first trees that will be adopted, I just saw pictures earlier today, and they're going to happen this Saturday. And I want to thank Lilia. That was the first organization that helped us identify these first adopters. The trees are beautiful, and we're very, very excited. And we're now scheduling already tree plantings in Malaga and in Calawa. So please call us, contact us, because there's more trees to plant.
Yeah, and if you let us know of the specific plannings. I know Tree Fresno does a great job of putting flyers together and letting people know about those events. We would be sure to share out with the CSC.
Absolutely.
Right. Thanks, Naomi. So electric school buses. So in the SERP, there was funding of $6.4 million allocated to that. So far we've spent. This isn't actually correct. It needed to be updated. We've been able. Fresno Unified took to their board and they approved. They entered into contracts with us to replace 6 of their buses. And then Central Unified is currently looking to replace 10 buses. And so that brings the total to 16. What's not on there, there was an additional 7 school buses that Fowler Unified also, which covers the southern portion of the 86-17 boundary. And so they had entered into contracts for 7. And so it's exciting that of those, the ones that they had put in, that they've actually received 7 of the buses. So Fowler Unified has 7 electric school buses that are out there right now as a result of the efforts of the CSC, and the kids that ride those buses are exposed to less pollution directly, in addition to the communities where those buses were driving. So it's great news in that regard. In regards to school air filtration, we had initial conversations with, Dr. Correa, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear where Fresno Unified intends to deploy those school buses and how those decisions were made. And you may not have that information, but I think that we would still want to know that.
Yeah, it's I don't know the exact schools, but in the contracts, it's serving only the schools in the South Central. So it's serving the students in the South Central 86-17 community. That was part of the agreement that they entered into for that. And a lot of those, they kind of rotate the buses on which routes they do, but it is in that in the community.
Okay, I'd still like to have a little bit more detail, but thank you.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to note that so that we can bring that back in the next quarter.
I'm right. I'm taking that down as a note, Dr. Curry. All right, and so kind of going back to the Fresno Unified, when we had initially started having conversations with them, there was an interest. They had received funding and from the federal government. It was during COVID, and so they received some funding. But through continued encouragement from the CSC to continue engage with the Fresno Unified, it was determined that they did have a need. And so we were able to work with them. And so for the 31 of the schools, we got them under contract to purchase single room air filtration, large scale air filtration devices for classrooms. And so through the 31 contracts, there's actually 1,208 units that are going to be delivered through this. And so they're currently in the process of entering into those agreements, and hopefully we'll be receiving those soon. To this point, these units will be able to be, and the plan is to use them in portable classrooms. That was one of the things, Dr. Curry, that you'd asked about, and was one of the things we made sure to have conversations with about Fresno Unified, making sure that those were available for those classrooms. And so we're happy that there was a need, and that these units will be used to protect student health.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm also seeing a comment, Ryan, in the chat. This is about the previous measure we discussed, urban greening and vegetative barriers. I think this is in regards to adopt a tree, perhaps. Naomi Araceli is commenting that for me personally, it was sad to know that the trees were only for the inside of the properties and not for the outside, which is what is...
I can address that. So it's not that we don't want to plant trees in the sidewalks, it's happening, but what we said is that it is going to take more time, because those agreements, or those, like the green light, needs to come from the city. And, I'm sorry if it was not communicated correctly, Araceli. So we have passed all the recommendations that you gave us about the streets where you have the trees. And those, both us and Tree Fresno are working with the city to see where they're going to let us plant those trees. But again, it's, we didn't want to wait to just do that. And that's why we started with the trees that can be planted inside the properties, because we cannot just decide or the homeowner decide when it's on the street. So we're working with the city to see which streets are going to be able to have additional trees. We have expressed the strong desire of the residents for this to happen, but it's just going to take a little bit more time.
Thanks for the clarification, Naomi. So maybe we can add that as a topic to include in your update for the next year.
Yeah, I think what we could do is keep on getting the recommendation of the trees, passing them out to the city, and as the city starts approving those sections of streets, we can come back and say these were approved.
Wonderful, thank you. Lilia, go ahead.
Sí, buenas noches. Es
Buenas noches.
referente a lo que acaba de decir Yamin. Vengo ahorita de otra reunión y lamentablemente nosotros quisiéramos como residentes de esta área del sureste de Fresno y ser por la parte del área AB 617. La escuela nueva que se va a hacer en este momento ya se está haciendo más bien, pero no hay áreas verdes. La gente y los residentes lamentablemente no quieren árboles adentro de su casa, son muy pocos los que quieren. Dicen que de plantar un árbol sombreado adentro, prefieren mejor poner un árbol de fruta. Entonces, es difícil que den árboles de fruta para las propiedades en la parte de adentro. La ciudad tiene mucha área en la parte de la calle que lamentablemente, ojalá y aprueben, Nayamin, hay que darles presión para que aprueben, para que sigan adoptando los árboles, pero en la calle, ya que en la calle sí necesitamos los árboles por nuestros autos que están afuera o mucha gente que va caminando. Lamentablemente camina bajo el sol porque no hay nada de sombra. Entonces hay que seguir trabajando con eso para poder que la ciudad apruebe rápido los permisos para que se planten los árboles en las áreas de las banquetas, en las áreas verdes de la ciudad. Es mi punto de vista también.
Estoy totalmente de acuerdo, Lilia. I mean, full agreement with you, and you knew that was the intent. But definitely we have not given up on those things. So something just kind of like dawned on me right now that we had discussed previously that it would be a good time for the city to come back and give an update on the rerouting study, and they're going to be doing the vegetative barrier with Tree Fresno. So I think we can bundle everything and also make a point that the residents in what Lila just said, residents in the AB 617 community want to have trees in the streets, not only in their homes, so that to see if they can, work with us so that they could expedite and put more pressure, like what Lilia said, to make these streets greener and not only the properties. So can we add that to like the to do?
Of course you can. We will make a note to that. And so just to confirm, our action item is to have the Air District formally invite the city of Fresno to come back, and so that they can listen to these concerns and talk about how do we, reduce some of those barriers to getting trees planted in the sidewalks where residents need those trees the most. So we'll be sure to add that, and we'll follow up with folks at the next agenda setting meeting. Thank you. All right, Ryan, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks, everyone. So these are some of the measures focused on some of the businesses. They had charging plugs for trucks, alternatives to alternatives to open burning of ag waste, under fire char broilers, alt fueling stations, yard trucks and refrigeration units, rail car movers and switchers, replacing heavy duty trucks and public fleet vehicles. And so we haven't seen as much, and some of it's because of we've been engaging you and having conversations about some of these issues. But just a few updates. So on the heavy duty truck reroute measure, after our subcommittee meeting and then also our discussion at a CSC meeting, we kind of pulled back from the topic about making any changes to the program and really just focusing in on the operations within the community. And so there's a statewide measure, a regulation called the California Air Resources Board has. It was the truck and bus regulation. And it actually requires that every fleet operator be registered in it's called the Truckers Program. And it's a database. And so we were able to get the information from CARB. They just recently provided it to us of every single trucking operation throughout the valley. And so we were isolating down to just the operations within the boundary. We just finished that up today. It's about 126 operators within the boundary that have a heavy duty truck of some sort. And so what we are going to be doing is we are going to be outreaching every single one of those people to share with them the information about the current program, and see if there's interest, and if anybody has any concerns about the program. What we're going to do is if we don't see enough interest in participation with the existing program, we would then bring back any feedback that we have from people on maybe some changes that would allow them to participate. And we're looking to complete that within the next couple of months. And then that of course would come back to the CSC for discussion. Another one is public fleet vehicles, and this was another one that had to go through the CARB process. It's open now. We've been starting to engage, and as soon as we did, we started seeing some interest. So we're expecting that we will start seeing it. A lot of this has to do with timing. So this is the time of the year that we need to be engaging with public. And when we say public, it's city, county, school districts, those types of operations. This is their budgeting time for the next year. And so this is really the key time for us to get out there and communicate to them and see what their needs are and get them to start applying. So that way, when they do finalize their budgets, that they can just move forward and making those transitions to hopefully zero or plug-in hybrid vehicles. And we're going to continue to provide you updates on that as well. Kind of going back to a couple other things, the underfire charbroilers. These are so there's different types of charbroilers. So your Carl's Jr., your probably Carl's Jr. is the best example. They use what's called a chain-driven charbroiler. And they actually have requirements. We have a rule in place that requires them to have a catalyst that controls the particulate from those operations. But then there's a lot of restaurants that don't use a chain-driven charbroiler. And if you think about it, it's just like a conveyor belt and a chain-driven one. And then the meat kind of goes up the belt. You have a heating source that cooks it as it moves through, and you're able to funnel all those emissions up into one place. So that's why there's a control device that was developed that is cost effective. And so we were able to develop a rule and to regulate those facilities and require them to put in those controls for those operations. The other type is under fire charbroilers. And this is what most people are familiar with. It's basically a grill with a heating source underneath it. It's basically like your barbecue that you have in your backyard. That's kind of the equivalent of an under fire charbroiler. And so these ones, there hasn't been a lot of there's a lot of development work that is going on in this area, trying to come up with things that can control those emissions. And so we actually have, when we worked with the CSC, some of this technology, it was still new, and it still is new. And so when we adopted the SERP, we actually went out to every single one of the restaurants and told them that we have money available for them to put in, one of these control devices, and we would pay for it. We pay for the maintenance. We do all these other things. And so at that time, we didn't have a lot of interest. And so we are planning a new effort to go back out there again and see if circumstances have changed. Hopefully, we can get some people interested in doing that. There is, quite a bit of particulate, the very, very small particulate matter that gets emitted from that, from the fats in the meat. As that cooks off, it forms very, very tiny particles, which is called PM 2.5. And so there's a big benefit if we can get people interested in that. So that'll be something that over the next couple of months, we're going to go out to those restaurants and hopefully get some people interested and to take advantage of that. But we'll provide an update on that as well. All right. Any questions on any of those? Not seeing any. So at this point, I'll turn it over to, and so since it's 2 slides, I'll go ahead and control it for you and let you talk about the in-person events that we heard the suggestions from the community steering committee, both through the outreach committee as well as the steering committees. And so, we've been getting out there and a lot of school events and other things.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Can you guys hear me okay? Perfect. Okay. As Ryan said, we've been out and about, and so just wanted to share some of the outreach activities that we've been doing right there in the Fresno CSC boundary. During the past year, we've gone to 17 schools or school activities, connecting right there with parents, sharing info about AB 617, air quality tools like our RAN app and our resources available for parents to utilize, as well as grant info, such as the Clean Air Rooms program and the Clean Green Yard Machine program. Highlighted in these pictures, we've included some of the events where we distributed informational packets to parents right there on campuses during pickup and drop-off times. We've also attended school events where, like back to school nights and like fairs, fall and spring festivals, as well as school district resource fairs and any workshops that they might provide. Go ahead, next slide, Ryan. And then not only, school events, we've gone to community events, and we've gone to 12 events so far. And this has enabled us to engage with residents within the boundary and provide them with relevant AB 617 info, such as where they can find the community air monitoring info, as well as, again, air quality tools, what to do when there's wildfire impacts, as well as, any available incentive funding for residents specifically in that AB 617 community. And as Ryan mentioned, this past weekend was our first Fresno in-person air purifier distribution event, where we were at the Health and Resource Fair in Malaga. During the event, we had bilingual staff on hand to help 14 residents complete their car or their clean air applications and help 2 residents apply. So any residents who might not have their either proof of residency, like their ID or PG&E bill on hand, then we just started the application process with them and at least got them going. But those that did, then they were able to walk away with a free air purifier. Our next outreach event that we have planned, where we are going to be doing this again, having air purifiers on hand, it will be on November 17th at the Reading and Beyond Giving Thanks block party at the Mosqueda Community Center. And we're also working with the Fresno EOC and hope to be at a future food distribution event that they are having. We're looking at their December event, but that's still in the works. That's it for me, but if anyone has any events that about, please let us know. Send us a flyer, email us about it, and we'll definitely take a look at it, add it to our outreach events, and see if we can be there. Were there any questions?
Thanks, Song. I'm seeing a question from Nayamin, and before you sign off, can you put the date of that next event that you mentioned in the chat so that it can be archived for today as well?
Of course.
Thank you. Naomi, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just want to congratulate the staff that was there at the Malaga event. I think that's what we need to do. We need to take the air purifiers, because then people, instead of just asking them to, oh, here's the application or here's the flyer, it's like they walk away with their box. So that's, that's the way to do it. My only other comment and recommendation would be that I think it would be good for, if possible, for the staff also to, and I'm not sure if I like this idea, but I will say it. I think we need to tell people and maybe help people have tablets to register right there to receive the text alerts or notifications when their quality is bad. Because I know, and this is the criticism that many of us had brought up before, that we wish that the RAN alerts also include all the new monitors that are in the AB 617. But in absence of that, at least that they know how to get those notifications, and that we're not only giving them the flyer, because frankly, we give them the flyer and they're not going to do it. We, our own staff from CCJ, and that we're small, that's what we do. Is like, you know what, we're going to sign you up, and here is like, let us do it right now. You have the time. So that would be the only other thing that I would comment. That brings me to a question. When are we going to have finally, because ideally it would be great for them to get the notification of the monitor that is near their kids' school. So is there any light at the end of the tunnel on that, or how are we encouraging them to not only get a text alert, but actually go and check and see where the monitor is? And that was also the question that I have. So when you go to the schools, do you really help people, like, show like the students, like, this is like, this is your school, you go here and this is where you would see the readings of this monitor that is on the roof of Edison or on the roof of Roosevelt. So what's the extent of the information that is shared?
Thanks, Naomi. Yeah, good question. So during our presentations, I will bring up the whole map for the Fresno AB 617, the boundary, as well as the camp map, where they can see the different monitors. And I will go through the whole process and show them how they can actually see what the readings are right then and there. And I will do that with both the parents and with the students, and show them at least where they can access the info. And also in our AB 617 flyers, we have that link as well on the bottom of our flyers, and those are bilingual in the different languages. So we do try to do that, but definitely in terms of the Valley Air app, when we go out to events, that's a great recommendation in trying to not only have our little cell phone flyers, but also help them through that whole process if they are not familiar with our app itself. So good idea. I would definitely encourage our team to do that.
The other thing, we are going to be start issuing taking iPads out there to events with cellular connectivity. And so we can definitely explore ways to, sign people up for notifications at events. And so, Zong, maybe you can remind me to talk about the rest of the team about that tomorrow.
We will make it an action item for you all to include that as well. Thank you. Dr. Curry, please go ahead.
I don't know if Lilia's hand was up first, so I'm happy to defer if she was, but I'm just wanting to confirm the kind of community events, faith-based events, any church events, any health fairs, anything that falls into a community event, you would be willing to show up and participate and talk about air quality?
Definitely forward us the information, and we'll do our best to be there. with the holidays, it's going to be more of a staffing issue. And then also if we need bilingual staff, that also, we try our best to provide bilingual staff as well. But definitely let us know. I think sometimes when we don't know, we hear about it after the fact. And so we always wish that we had known beforehand. So more information is better. So definitely forward to us.
Okay, and I'm curious if we're keeping track of at the events, if we're tracking demographics at all, who shows up, and if we're reaching the full communities within the AB 617 in terms of ethnicity.
Not as far as I know, not with demographics.
Thank you for that. And before I transition to Lilia's question, just want to highlight for the CSC that there is a lot of support for Nayamin's comments. Seeing that Araceli thinks it's also a great idea, Nayamin, and getting support from Lilia. So with that said, Lilia, please go ahead.
Sí, es referente a la invitación a los eventos. Familias en Acción tiene su próximo evento el 16 de diciembre, va a ser el Block Party, vamos a hacer la posada comunitaria, donde vamos a regalar juguetes y vamos a tener comida para todos los participantes y vamos a hacer una posada. Y este viernes tenemos el evento, fuimos invitados por el concejal Luis Chávez aquí al Centro Mosquera, de 3 a 6 vamos a estar allí también en otro evento comunitario, por si gustan venir, son bienvenidos, yo les abro la puerta para que pongan su mesa informativa referente a los temas que quieran traer con nosotros, beneficiando pues con lo que están ofreciendo ustedes para nosotros.
Thank you, Lilia.
Yeah, if I could just go back to, I think my question or my concern is about if we're doing sufficient outreach, that we make sure that we're hitting all of the different communities. And so I would suggest that if we recognize that we're not covering the communities, that we change the strategy, we make sure that we're reaching out to African American communities, Asian communities, so on and so forth, just so that we are absolutely clear about making sure that opportunities exist within the broad spectrum.
No, that's a good point, Dr. Curry. I also do want to share that we do have an events tracker that we on our website for the Fresno community, and that's definitely something that we can take a look at and make sure we highlight. But thank you so much, Dr. Curry.
Thank you.
So then I'm wondering, Zong, if we can turn this into an action item about potentially kind of looking at that events tracker and maybe, presenting that at one of the follow-up meetings in the new year to help kind of reveal some of the answers to these questions that were being discussed. Okay. I think at this point, we're ready to pass it back to Ryan.
All right, so just some next steps, and these are just a few of them that we talked about, and some of the actions that we're looking to do, kind of getting to Dr. Ramos's point earlier about future topics. So what we're looking to do is, and this hopefully gets to what Dr. Curry was talking about as well. So we're looking to develop, working with you, outreach materials for the different communities. In those discussions, we can also talk about strategies on how to get this information out to make sure that we are, covering the entirety of the community and not leaving anybody out. But we're looking to bring back that discussion and share those materials and get feedback. We're also looking to, have the discussion about the possible reallocation of some funding in order to be able to do another in-person event for Lawn and Garden. And this may be another opportunity where we can not only not do Lawn and Garden, but we can also use it to also, distribute more air filtration units at an event like that as well. And then we've discussed it a few times, and so maybe some good ideas on expanding this conversation, not only to invite the city of Fresno to discuss progress on the truck reroute study, but also as an opportunity to talk about opportunities to plant trees in the planters along streets where there currently aren't. And so, those would be some topics for meetings at the beginning of next year. And that would be it for my presentation. Dr. Curry?
Sorry. There was something listed on the slide about land use and partnerships, and I'd like to know if there are updates in terms of agreements with the city. And I'd also like to just let everyone know, if they're not familiar or aware, that the Elm Avenue rezone that we spoke about, I guess, starting in 2021, is now back. And it is another topic of discussion because it is, again, an area in AB 617, but it also is the goal is to return the zoning from neighborhood mixed use back to light industrial. And so very much it sits in our wheelhouse. It affects communities. It's down the street from a school, across the street from Clinica Sierra Vista. And although they say they are not expanding, the only reason they would need to do a rezone is really to have access to do more. So I would call that, just bring that back to your attention, and then ask you again, where are we with the discussions with the city about land use agreements? Thank you.
Yeah, and so the city of Fresno has, we had and this is a good topic, Dr. Curry, because we do have new members that weren't here for when we had those discussions. And so, initially we worked with the city of Fresno to develop a letter of understanding. Kind of the primary purpose was to increase the ability for residents, community members, to participate more in the land use projects that were going on within the AB 617 community. We had kind of worked with the city on developing a letter of understanding, and then it was decided that the steering committee was not in support of a letter of understanding and had requested a memorandum of understanding. And at that time, the city of Fresno decided that they were not willing to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the district in that regard. We continue to work with the city of Fresno on an opportunity to expand the ability for people to participate in the land use discussions. The city of Fresno created a system where people can get email notifications every day that a project is being noticed within the city of Fresno. And so we shared that information. We can definitely share it again. And so the project that I think you're talking about, Dr. Curry, there was just a developer meeting a night or two ago. And so there is going to be a public process on that, and that would be captured in those emails that the city of Fresno sends out to people that want to receive those emails. And in those emails, it includes information on commenting periods, the ways in which people can participate. It includes a contact number for Spanish-speaking residents to contact people to get more information about those projects.
Yeah, I think that's certainly the notification of people is one part of it. But I'm actually really interested and curious again in how we are willing to take funds from the state and talk about incentives and provide dollars for people to make changes. And yet we still are down with this issue of land use and the fact that it continues to come back up and that it continues to put the same group of folks in the impacted position. And so is AB 617 willing to do something more than what we've done before? And I hear you saying, I know the city stepped away and was not amenable to an MOU, but people have participated in the past and have let their priorities be known. Text amendments were done. zoning changes were made, city councils were in agreement, general plan alignment all happened. And so, but we're still here in 2023 relitigating what was done in 2017.
Yeah.
So is there something else, again, that the Air Control District can do? Is there something else that AB 617 can do in the way of holding the line? Because it doesn't seem to make sense that we'd invest in cleaning the air all the while that we allow someone to come back and rezone so that they can pollute it just the same.
Yeah.
So that's my question, and that's my frustration.
No, and I understand that, Dr. Curry, and this is something that has been talked about at the statewide level because of there are limitations to the program. In the legislation itself, it does not grant new powers to the Air District to require other organizations. It doesn't empower or give authority to the California Resources Board or anybody else to require people to participate. And so it is very much a yes, we need to continue to work together and to discuss these things. And I think for various projects, there have been changes, and there have been projects that haven't moved forward, I think, directly because of AB 617. But I think it does require people to participate in those community processes. And so, making sure that people are aware of what's going on, the ways in which they can voice their concerns and be a part of the process, that definitely has a lot of power when they take those to the meetings and they share that with their elected representatives. But yeah, it is and they tried to run legislation to increase the authority of AB 617, and it for whatever reason it did not move forward. But that is yeah, we understand the frustration that stemmed from that, because we do hear what you're saying in regards to the efforts that we're doing and incentives, but at the same time, if there's a project that comes in, it may potentially increase pollution. And so when we work on projects that we have ability to, we definitely make the recommendations to the city and others that they incorporate newer and newer technology, hopefully zero technology, to alleviate some of those emissions related issues.
So it sounds like Ryan and Dr. Curry, that this requires a deeper, more strategic conversation of how to plan for these situations. So we'll be sure to add this to topics for priority for the new year. It sounds like more time is needed to have this discussion, and with the city of Fresno present. Ryan, I see some unrelated comments to what we're discussing right now, but from the public that are related to something that you discussed earlier. And as a reminder, as public members, we do take your comments if they're related to the topic that we're discussing at hand. And then your other comments, I'll be sure to read them when we get to the public comment section, Laura. So the question is, are restaurant grills considered along with charbroilers, since they all emit PM 2.5?
Yeah, currently we are not. I think when she's talking about grills, maybe specifically something, if it's a grill, chances are that's an under-fired charbroiler. I think if the question is in regards to griddles, which are flat top surfaces that cook meat, that's not something that we are currently looking at. It's a lot of the times the emissions that get generated from under fire, it's when the fats actually fall off the meat into the flames themselves that cause that the PM 2.5 emissions to be formed. And so the griddles, we're not seeing the 2.5, the PM 2.5 emission levels at the same rate. And so that's why the focus right now is on under fired charbroilers, because there is so much PM 2.5 emissions from those.
Thanks, Ryan, for that clarity. Okay, and thanks, Zong, for posting the date of the next event that you all will be hosting. So with that said, I'm not seeing any more questions for Ryan at this time. So we're going to go ahead and transition to our next agenda item, unless we have any other questions. Let me just scan these boxes, ensure that I'm not missing any hands. All right, well, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and transition us to the next agenda item, which is receiving an update about the annual progress report that is being developed and finalizing at the moment. So I'm going to pass it to Nancy, who will provide us a brief overview of how the process has been in soliciting feedback from CSC members and ensuring that this annual report does reflect all of the accomplishments that you all have made over the last year. Nancy, take it away.
Thank you, Amy. This is Nancy again. So I have actually been calling various residents and just ensuring that they receive the annual report. And if anybody else is interested in receiving a physical copy, you can let me know as well. And so I have been wanting to just encourage residents to review the annual report and to make sure that they're actually looking through it through the different sections, and so they can learn more about what we do as a community and what we are all about. And especially for the newer residents, I want to make sure that they are fully informed with essentially what is going on. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can go over a few things. Can everybody see that? Perfect. Okay, thank you. And then so, like I said, I really just want to encourage everybody to take a look at the annual report. We are taking feedback by email, by phone call. We can go ahead and schedule a one-on-one if that's something you would like to do over Zoom. I am more than happy to set something up. If you want to meet somewhere, like at a cafe, or maybe we can do something here at the district as well. I really want to just encourage everybody just to take a look at this draft annual report and just let us know what your thoughts are. And it's just, the purpose of it is just to reflect on what works, what hasn't worked, and how we can proceed in the future. And then so some of the highlight components of the annual report include community steering committee engagement. So we like to make sure that these meetings are inclusive and that we are just having we're being transparent, we're having great discussions. And other highlights include SERP incentive measure implementation, outreach efforts in the community air monitoring progress, annual enforcement updates. And so any of these topics, if you want to learn more about them, what they are, like I said, please send us comments and feedback. I cannot emphasize enough that we are here for you. And if I don't have the question, I will make sure to go find the answer for you. And so the timeline for feedback, based on the CSC recommendation, the deadline has been extended from November 5th to November 16th, or November, sorry. And so yeah, with that being said, if you have any questions right now, we are more than happy to take them. If not, we can continue the rest of the discussion for today.
Thank you, Nancy. This is Amy. I am noting that a few residents have asked in the chat for a hard copy to be mailed out. So if we can, we'll make a note of that for you all so that those hard copies can be mailed out to residents to provide feedback.
Of course.
Great. So at this time, does anyone have any questions or recommendations for those of you who have had a chance to look at the annual report? want to make space for you to provide any suggestions that you may have. Okay, at this time, we are not seeing any comments or questions, only looking at suggest requests to get hard copies of the report mailed out. So the Air District will be providing those. And as Nancy mentioned, if you all would like to schedule a one-on-one or a group on one with the Air District, please do feel free to reach out. And Nancy, should the CSC members contact you directly, or how would you like folks to reach out to you?
They can reach out directly to me or to our AB617 email. And yes, I will be more than happy to just answer any questions and just get something going.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, so looking forward to receiving feedback from the CSC members to ensure that this annual report is truly representative of all the work that was accomplished this last year. I am seeing some back and forth chat regarding the previous comment about the difference between grills and charbroilers. I'm going to hold that till we get to public comment so that we can open it up for more questions at that point. For now, we're going to transition to our general standing updates. So at this point, I'd like to invite agencies who have updates for tonight to provide us with some general updates. I know the truck reroute subcommittee had a meeting, wondering if anyone is here to represent the truck reroute subcommittee. I'm not seeing anyone.
Hey, Amy.
Oh.
This is Lance.
There you are. Yes.
Yeah. So I do have a report. Gonna go ahead and read it out. So
yes, please.
Yeah, IBI Group with Catherine Padilla and Associates, the consultants continue their efforts on the South Central Fresno AB 617 community reroute study, currently working on the draft strategies report. Public input was collected at multiple events to inform the draft strategies report, which is one of the components within the ultimate document. The next technical steering committee and community advisory group meeting is scheduled for November 16th as a joint meeting for collaboration between both groups. The draft strategies report will be presented at the meeting and will be available for commenting and input from the CAG TSC public. There's a health assessment update as well. I'm not sure if you guys need that or that's a little bit different.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, but before you do that, Lance, you did talk really fast. Want to make sure that our translators are caught up. Okay, go ahead, Lance.
Yes. For the health assessment, the University of California, Merced continues their effort on the draft health assessment. They're currently working on their findings that will also be included in informing the truck study on truck routes. The draft health assessment will tentatively be available to the CAG TSC public in January 2024, a date to be determined. If there are any additional questions related to the South Central Fresno AB 617 community truck reroute study and related health assessment, please email AB617 truck reroute study at fresno.gov. That's it.
When are the meetings for the truck rerouting study?
So it looks like the next technical steering committee and community advisory group meetings are scheduled for November 16th.
Lance, can you put any details that you have on that in the chat so that members can write that down?
Yeah, not a problem.
Do you happen to know the last meeting?
I apologize, I do not.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, what time is the 11/16 meeting?
My apologies. I don't have a time, unfortunately, in this report.
Okay, I don't have the time listed for you all either on my end, so that is an action item to make sure that in the follow-up email that the Air District sends out, we can be sure to provide the not only the date for November 16th, but also the time and how to join. So I'm not seeing that in the comments that you put there. Lance.
I'm not receiving any of the notifications about the truck rerouting study, and so I'm just curious of their last meetings and if they are standard and scheduled for a particular day of the week, and all of the details so that I can be a part of it. So thank you.
Lance or anyone from the Air District, do you all know how that list was generated for who's receiving those updates and invitations to those meetings? Provide some clarity on this process.
So my apologies. I don't know, but I can connect you with I think DPW is on this one, so I can't connect you with them.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lance. So we heard some general updates regarding the SERP implementation and the annual report. Wondering, Air District, if you have any other general updates that you'd like to share at this time?
I do not.
Okay,
Thanks.
just checking, and I'm quickly scanning the screen here to see if we have anyone from CARB today that has any general updates for us. And I'm not seeing anyone tonight. Okay, at this time, I'd love to open it up to other general updates. I know we heard earlier from Lidia about some of the community events that are happening. Anyone else have any other events or general updates that you'd like to bring to the group at this time? This would be your time to share.
The next CAG meeting is on the 16th, is from 4 to 6 p.m. And we'll definitely work on getting you connected, Dr. Curry.
Great, thank you for that. And it sounds like other folks would like to know that as well. So appreciate the update. Okay, at this time, I'm going to pass it to Michaela to wrap us up with next steps and then move us on to public comment. Michaela?
Hello, everyone. It's me again. Yes, thank you so much for this conversation and all of these really, just rich feedback and pieces around these elements that we've been talking about this evening. As we close for the evening, we would love to reflect back some of the action items that we documented throughout today's call. And as we read the full list of our collected action items, we would love to provide some time for CSC members to share back any questions or modifications they may have. So please feel free as I go about reading these items to hit the microphone button, to speak aloud, or to utilize the chat feature to share any such questions or modifications that you might have throughout this time. So with that, would love to name that our first action item of the evening that we've identified. We had a full list. Okay, so the first action item is that future presentations to the CSC will include data visualizations to show how target measures are related to health outcomes and emission reductions. I'll give a moment or so of pause to check the chat or see if anyone has their hands raised before I move to the next item. And I'll do this for each of the items. Okay, don't see a pause, so I'll keep going. Number 2 was future presentations to the CSC will include a report of live data presentations to show how projected reductions in air emissions compare to live data from and in communities. Okay, number 3, CCEJN Entry Fresno will present an update about TRING efforts in the AB 617 district in the first quarter of the coming year. Next, the AD is to reach out to Fresno Unified to gain a little bit more information about where Fresno Unified intends to deploy electric school buses and share more context with the CSC about how those decisions were made, what the process for that was. Five, the AD will invite the City of Fresno to attend an upcoming CSC meeting and to listen to CSC concerns regarding the need for city cooperation to plant trees and sidewalks in public areas. Six, the CSC is invited to join Familias and Acción Block Party on December 16th. Seven, at an upcoming CSC meeting, the AD will review their community events tracker to continue soliciting CSC feedback. And with that, I see, Lilia, that you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Sí, tengo una pregunta para ustedes. El departamento de ustedes podrían apoyarnos para que no pase. Creemos que la ciudad de Fresno está apoyando unos proyectos de apartamentos aquí en el área calle 8 y La Ventura. Y nuestro propósito es ya no polucionar aquí el área, ya que tenemos 2 escuelas cerquitas, que en este caso estamos hablando de la Wincho y estamos hablando de la escuela nueva que se está haciendo en la calle 10 y La Ventura. Entonces, quieren poner unos apartamentos y realmente si ya tenemos bastante contaminantes en el área con estos autos que van a estar transportando cada rato los estudiantes, ya sean más de 1,000 estudiantes en una escuela y más de 800 en otra escuela que están tan cerquitas, a menos de 2 bloques. Pienso, tenemos a 3, 4 bloques, tenemos a la escuela Roosevelt, entonces tenemos más apartamentos, sería sobrepoblar la comunidad y eso no nos va a afectar más. Nuestra petición de nosotros hacia la ciudad de Fresno era poder en esa área que quieren hacer esos apartamentos, un área verde para nosotros, pero no lo quieren aprobar. Entonces, nuestro plan es que si no quieren aprobar un parque, pongan una clínica pediátrica para que las familias del área que no tienen medio de transporte para que lleven a sus niños hasta Madera, puedan tener una clínica pediátrica cerquitas y no tener un área de apartamentos. La verdad, el área de apartamentos nos perjudicaría más, ya que a una bloque está la escuela nueva y como dije, son más de 1,000 estudiantes los que van a estar en esa área. Para tener apartamentos no queremos apartamentos, entonces queremos el apoyo de todas las organizaciones que están aquí en este momento para que no nos ayuden con la ciudad de Fresno y no pasen esto para que sean apartamentos en esta área. Gracias, nomás es una sugerencia.
Thank you so much, Lilia. To reflect back what I'm hearing that that are these apartments that are being put in right now, but the residents in this area are not wanting apartments or would rather have a green area or pediatric clinic close by in light of pollutants that new apartments would bring. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and more specifically, Bekela, I'm hearing the request to collaborate with folks that are here as part of this meeting. So want to encourage folks, I know we have a lot of advocacy organizations here tonight to reach out to Lilia directly So Lilia, I know most people already have your contact information, but I'm wondering if you can put that in the chat so that folks can reach out to you. And we'll make an action item that you're requesting that CSC members reach out to you directly to develop a process for helping advocate in the community.
Thanks, Amy. And Dr. Curry, I see your hand as well. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, sure. Just on number 7, part of the review of the tracker was to assess our effectiveness in reaching all of the communities, so that it was to make sure that we were not leaving any communities behind. So I mentioned specifically African American and Asian communities, but just so that we are assured we're covering all of the communities.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for this feedback and for clarifying what you definitely shared earlier, and making sure that we have that included here. And I see that our wonderful note taker is also updating that language as we speak to include that. And yes, would love to request that the translation also reflects these updates as well, these clarifications. Thank you, Dr. Curry. And I see that Lilia has also included in the chat her email, and we would definitely encourage that collaboration to be taking place here in this space and via email to continue to elevate these concerns from residents about how neighborhoods are formatted. Okay. I don't see any more hands raised or comments. And I see, Song, that you posted a poster about the block party as well. So thank you so much for including that. Okay. Okay, so with that, action item number 8 that we have here is the CSC is invited to join the district's next air purifier distribution event on November 17th at the Reading and Beyond Block Party at the Mosqueda Community Center. Action item number 9 is the CSC is invited to submit feedback for the annual report by November 16th and have the option to submit feedback verbally to the Air District. And I see that number 10, the next Technical Steering Committee and Community Advisory Group. Okay. For the Community Advisory Group, for the truck reroute study, we'll meet next week. We'll meet next on November 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. For any questions related to the South Central Fresno AB 617 Community Truck Reroute Study and related health assessment, please feel free to email the AB 617 Truck Reroute Study at fresno.gov. And while our note taker is typing, I will also make note that I see in the chat a comment from Lilia about, yes, the space where they plan these apartments is located at 8th and Ventura Street. And yes, and this final action item, which we'll have translated here shortly, is around agencies and organizations just generally being encouraged to reach out to Lilia at Familias en Acción to collaborate on strategies to address potential apartment developments within the boundary, specifically this space on 8th and Ventura Streets. And with that, I believe that, okay, thanks, Dr. Curry. And so I see in the chat a request to also ask the city to update the steering committee on land use. Thank you. And we'll also make a note of that and add this to the tracker as well. And I see Naomi.
Yeah, so land use, trees, and the area that they have selected for that vegetative barrier.
Thank you, Naimeen.
And were we also including them updating us on the truck rerouting study?
Yes, this should be, as we scroll here. One moment as we look
We
back.
can add them. I don't think we have them on there, so we'll add them.
Great, thanks, Amy. Thank you, Dr. Curry. Great, thank you so much. I think Liz, Amy, someone's typing. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, what other edits or clarifications, and really wanting to ensure, like, we want to include this, we want to talk about this again, are coming up for folks in terms of action items or things to move forward with regard. Prepositions are hard to move forward with in the future. Okay, I don't think I see anything in the chat or any hands raised here. And so, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for providing your feedback throughout the meeting. I'm excited about this list. I know some of our folks who love a good to-do list are feeling it as well, which is everyone, I'm sure. And so, yes, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so with that, would love to transition this space and time to talking through our next meetings on our radar. So with that, yeah, we would definitely just love to take a moment or an opportunity to remind folks in this space that we are currently not planning to have a CSC meeting in December. And so our next CSC meeting is scheduled to take place in the new year when it's 2024 and we're all 2024 people. Yes, and so we're very much looking forward to that. Wednesday, January 10th at 5:30 p.m. here on Zoom. And so with that, to prepare for that meeting, we would love to hear back for you all, what you all as a CSC makes the most sense in terms of our agenda setting meeting in light of, you know, this busy season. And so we also want to recognize that, like, we recognize that it's been a bit of a lower engagement in terms of agenda setting meeting attendance lately. And so with that, we wanted to propose an additional meeting to discuss the possibility of planning out the agenda for the first few months of the year, similar to what we did earlier this year. And so as a reminder, we do want to remind folks that at some point in the coming months, we do also hope to have an in-person meeting. And so with that, we would love to propose or ask what your thoughts would be around setting up a call to plan for the first 3 months of the new year. Naomi, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, I like the idea, and I was going to ask, when is it going to be our next in-person meeting? It was in June, so it's going to be 6 months.
I love it. Yes, I believe our hope is to have a meeting within the next quarter, is my general understanding of the new year. Love it. But yeah, any thoughts or any feedback around?
Mikhail, this is Amy. I'm wondering if that's a good topic to bring to the January meeting, so that if we need to, you know, come in person in February or in March or earlier in the year, that's something that we can discuss at the beginning of January.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds great.
Yeah, we were hoping to have an in-person meeting early in 2024.
Gotcha. Wonderful. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. So with that, thank you, everyone. We will, plan to keep we invite you to let that continue to percolate in your minds over the coming weeks. So, and we'll plan to continue to send out communication and communicate with you all around these pieces. So with that, I will now invite Ryan to provide any additional next steps or comments before we open the meeting back to the full group for final public comment.
Yeah, the only recommendation I have is to have a wonderful rest of your evenings. Thank you for everybody's time and your very thoughtful input into the topics tonight, and looking to bring back a lot of information.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. And so as our final piece of the agenda for tonight's CSC meeting, we now invite any of the CSC members to share any final public comments. And so are there any final public comments for any of you that you would like to share before we wrap up for the evening? I don't see anything, and of course would invite folks to feel free to review the chat about the conversation we had, or that I see here around restaurant grills and charbroilers emitting 2.5 PM 2.5, in the conversation we had with that. And thank you, Laura, for raising that to our consciousness in this time. Okay, well, with that, thank you so much. And I would love to elevate and name too. Right before I wish us a good evening is that there was a project idea to boycott food companies that use lots of pesticides on their foods from Laura. And Laura recommended seeing the ratings of companies at asyousow.org. So would love to elevate that too as a comment that was made earlier this evening. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this space with us on your Wednesday evening, even though it got dark before we basically started the meeting. But anyway, and so we hope that you have a really wonderful rest of your evenings. And thank you for your contributions to this AB 617 South Fresno Community Steering Committee tonight. So be well and have a lovely evening.
Yeah, thanks, Michaela. Thanks, everybody. Buenas noches a todos. Muchas gracias. Thanks.
Muchas gracias. Feliz noche.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Gracias, que
everyone.
tengan todos buenas noches.
Buenas